there's a never ending supply of new things in the knife world. And that's kind of where I was like, I think there's a space for me to fit in here because everything's different. Like my blade shape and my handle design is very different than every other blade maker on the market.
Well, welcome. This is episode 2 of the Mr. Knife Guy podcast. And today we have a great guest, Stockton Jones.
That's me.
Stockton is local to St. George, and he's a new and upcoming knife maker. And so he brought some of his wares, and we're going to talk about the whole process and why, what, where, when, and how. And hope you enjoy. So come join us. So Stockton, welcome.
Thank you. I'm amazed to be here. Can't believe I was picked to be the number one.
Absolutely.
I was honored, totally honored. So,
well, hopefully we'll make it worth your time.
Oh heck yeah! I can't believe it, man.
In fact, I even brought.
Oh yes, let's go. That's awesome.
Right?
I got a bunch of those made up for some of my favorite people, and you guys made the short list.
Appreciate it.
Heck yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Stockton and Mr. Knife Guy have had a really great relationship for quite a while. He started out. Actually, his father was a customer.
Yeah,
he's a business owner here locally.
He got me hooked, which was bad.
And he came in. He goes, "My son enjoys knives. I'm going to bring him in." So Stockton came in, and I don't think his wife was very happy. A lot of wives hate me.
Definitely not at first. Guts. Not at first. But then she came in and met you, and she loved you just as much as I do.
Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome.
Thanks. And then all of a sudden you disappeared.
I poofed off the planet.
You just completely disappeared. And your dad comes in, and I'm like, "What happened to Stockton?" And he's like, "Oh, he's working at Modern Warriors."
Yeah. I was selling some guns for a while, and that kind of eluded me to getting into the knife world a little bit more. In fact, like I got hands on a few different kinds of knives, and I was like, man, I think I could do something like this and make something my own. And then fast forward, I think 3-4 years, and here we are today. And I started Knotty Knives, and Knotty Knives, actually, the name Knotty Knives came from my dad. Actually, I was like, dude, I want to start a knife company. Like, I wonder what name I should do. And he was like, oh, dude, you could go so many different ways with it. And I was like, oh, I mean, I have no idea where to start. And I was like, I want to do something with the name involving each model name. So like something kind of with an umbrella tree. And then he was like, we'll do something with knots. He's like, there's a million knots out there.
Yep. Theme.
And I'm like, oh, he's like Knotty Knives. And I was like, that's it. Like an epiphany. I was like, that's the name right there. Boom. And here we are. I think I started a little bit of like January-ish of this last year. So we're almost a year now. And it's
awesome.
It's
You've been
turned into what it is. Yeah, it's fun.
So that's interesting how that came about. I just want to mention that I have a lot of people come into the store that are thinking about, everybody watches Forged in Fire, and then everybody wants to be a knife maker, and that's great. I hope everybody is, because you can never have enough, and it's great. It's artistic, and it's, but not very many people do as well as they'd hoped.
Definitely. It's more of an art than I would say than a job, in my opinion. Like, I mean, people that are perfectionists will totally understand. Like I started off doing one, and I just watched simple YouTube videos on how to make a knife. And I was like, I think I could figure this out. And I did one with a hand file, and it was rough. And then I hand sanded it for probably way too long and made it finally to something I liked. But now, I mean, like you'll have one little imperfection that a customer won't notice on a knife, but you notice it, and it eats you up. Yeah, totally. And so it's an art form, in my opinion.
Well, good. It is in mine as well. So many different talents required to be able to be a good knife maker.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I see people bring their knives in. They're like, I make knives. Would you sell my knives? And I'm like, well, let's take a look at them. And they bring them in, and I'm like, why don't you practice a little bit more?
A little bit longer.
And then I have some people like Zared Barlow is a local, and he brought his stuff in and just blew me away.
Just
his
phenomenal.
Stuff is amazing.
That's awesome.
And when you said you were going to start making, or that you started making knives, I'm like, well, let's see what you got.
Yep. Yeah.
And
so in fact, we have Gen 1 original Knotty knife that I made with hand file and sandpaper in my house.
Okay. Well, let's talk through it. So you came in, and the first knife that you handed me, I'm like, dude, you made this?
That was this one, right?
So yeah.
Yeah. So this is Model 1. I drew it up and kind of stole blade shape idea off of just all of my favorite knives. And so I really love the drop point hunter design. And so this was kind of the creature that I made in my house. with hand files and a Dremel.
It's your first child.
Yeah, it's 1095 high carbon steel. I tempered it with 2 torches in my fireplace.
That's awesome.
Terrible. Don't recommend that. But yeah, we kind of turned that, and then I turned a new page and really took some time to hone my craft and kind of developed a few more hunting models. And this is the mini hitch.
So again, the name of your company is Knotty Knives.
Yes, yeah.
And it's not like bad knives.
No,
it's
not
like
naughty.
knots.
Yeah, like knots, Knotty. So
And
everything's a
then
knot.
The theme. So we interviewed Ben Peterson, and he talked about, variations on a theme.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love this because all of your knives are named after knots.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I have like the clove hitch, I've got the mini hitch, the half hitch. Let's see. Yeah, those are a few to list them off, but it's fun because there's how many different kinds of knots. I mean, there's endless kinds of knots. And I'm getting kind of into the chef knife world, which is a little harder with knots because there's not really many cooking knots.
Right. You can do a splinter off. And
yeah, exactly. And so I'll figure
it.
that out later, but that's a whole new world that I've fallen in love with knife making.
So let's talk about materials. You do stock removal.
Yes. Yep.
Which means that you start with a bar stock.
Definitely.
And then you cut it.
Yep. So I have,
shape that
actually,
you want.
there's a guy in town that I connected with via Facebook
Doing
that
water
has
jetting?
a water jet company. Yeah. And he is super, super rad. He lined up with me and he was like, yeah, dude, like just bring by a blank or two and I can set it up in the computer and then we can start cutting away. And it's been a huge, huge successor to my quality, I would say, because now I have the exact same shape on all of my blades. And it's
interesting
nice
to think. And if you're not really, aware of how, machinery or knives are made, you think about grinding, but to think that water can cut steel.
It's crazy. Yeah. Like water with little particles in it going that
very
fast.
accurately and very cleanly.
Yeah. And the cuts are so clean. It's phenomenal.
So you start with a bar stock, you have them water jetted, cut to the shape you want, and then you grind them down to fit. And then you make the scales out of, this is G10 material.
G10's my favorite. Well, actually, G10 and carbon fiber are my new favorite. But G10 is, it's super phenomenal. It's weather resistant to just about anything. Right. It doesn't shrink or expand, contrast. It's super nice.
It's comfortable in the hands.
Yeah, very
G10's
soft.
Very popular knife material.
Definitely.
Easy to work with.
Yeah.
And then you pin it. You pin the G10 and you file the G10 with this
Dremels.
Yeah.
A lot of Dremel time. Too much Dremel time, probably.
It looks good and it feels good. So the main thing, you want it to be able to fit your hand comfortably, and you don't want hot spots when you grab it. You don't want it to bite into your hand at all. Right. These are perfect for that. There is a huge growing audience for everyday carry fixed blade knives in the 3 to 4 inch department now.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
so you hit the market right at the right time.
I got very lucky. Yeah, very, very lucky. And you and your helper have definitely helped me. Totally. Noah is a brain of knife world. And so I've picked his brain a few times, like, hey, what do you think this would do? How do you think this would do? And he kind of helped me develop this mini hitch shape, because he was like, oh, dude, if something was just a little bit shorter, he's like, that would be phenomenal with that drop point. Yeah, he totally does. And then I kind of made this off of an extra blank I had sitting around. I was like, I'm going to give that a shot. And it's my new favorite design. Like 100%. This is like, I want one of these for myself. I need to get one for myself. But yeah, he is phenomenal. And like you said, that kind of 3 to 4 inch blade size is like super popular right now. Okay. There's tons.
So that's going to be your market. We talked a little bit about marketing and carrying your knives in, Mr. Knife Guy.
Yeah, definitely.
You're starting to venture into culinary knives as well, kitchen cutlery, which we love and we also sell, and that's a whole nother market.
So much fun.
Yeah, you could like just do that. And
totally.
Fine.
Yeah, like I made a chef knife, a 6.5 inch chef knife for my first knife. I just thought, I'm going to go for it. Why not? I've got my dad's Christmas present that I needed to make. And I was like, I think I could do this. So I took an AEBL blank and called my mentor up. And he was like, yeah, dude, you could totally do it in a forge. So he gave me the perfect recipe to heat treat it in a forge. And it worked phenomenally. And it turned out super sharp and good. And the heat treat was really good. And I had Noah sharpen it for me. And he's like, dude, I need one of these. I need one bad. And so we got him lined up with the one that I'm probably going to make in a Knife Guy colorway that I want to do for you guys and bring in and just get your logos on it and do a cool collaboration with you guys. Awesome. I think that would be way cool.
So just to kind of give an overview, Stockton has grown to the point where now he is booked and has orders that to fill.
Which is great. It's a nice feeling for sure.
Here we go and show all these really, really cool knives and you can't get them.
Yeah.
But you will be able to.
Definitely.
We're going to ramp up production and work with Mr. Knife Guy to carry him in the store.
100%.
They'll be exclusive brand for a while, not forever.
Yeah.
But
for a while for sure.
And they'll be on the website so you can order them online. And,
heck yeah.
So right now he's got everything from fixed blade EDC to outdoor bushcraft, camping, and just starting into. Why don't you show us your two kitchen knives that you brought in and talk us through
this
those?
Is that 6.5-inch chef knife that I talked about. It is
actually a Kiritsuki blade.
Yeah, yep, the traditional Japanese Kiritsuki. My brother actually went on his mission to Japan, and he got, just overwhelmed with the history of knife making in Japan, and then he kind of fed that all to me, and I'm now like, oh, I love Japan, and I love knife history in Japan.
Like, do it Santuko, do it
exactly,
Dega,
exactly. So I made him like a vegetable knife over Christmas and gave that to him, and he loves it. But so this is kind of the first chef knife I went for. I just loved the shape of it, and I saw a picture of one similar, and then I was like, I can make that my own with the little finger groove and everything. And so it's AEBL stainless, and then I did Valley Composites makes these great like marbled epoxy with copper, gold, fishnet in it, I think is exactly what they call it. And it is just beautiful. I polished it up nice, and this is my dad's favorite knife. He cuts everything from brisket to vegetables to anything he can with this knife, and it's held the edge really well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm a Shun guy, but I would use this knife. I would totally use this knife. Has that got a 16 degree?
Yeah, 16 degree on both of these.
Nice.
Yep. And then my wife was like, well, I want a knife, but I don't need a full big chef knife. And so I kind of came up with this all-purpose knife, I guess you could call this. It's not really a paring knife. It's too big to be a paring knife, but it's
a utility blade.
Yeah, it's a utility blade. Whatever you want to cut with it, you can cut with it. And so I gave her this for Christmas, and I mean, every meal she's using it now. So it's super fun. It's that same kind of handle material, AEBL stainless with a 16 degree bevel on it. And it is really, really sharp as well. Really phenomenal.
It's beautiful.
And that's, that's the one. Yeah. Mr. Knife Guy was like, I need one of these bad.
Definitely.
And so
Mrs. Knife wife, my wife, she's a chef, and this would be her go-to.
Her go-to. Yeah. We'll have to get one in her hands for sure.
Definitely. And I love how you have, engraved and stamped your logo in some of them.
Yeah, most of them. The first one doesn't have one, neither does my wife's yet, but we'll get her something.
It's the same Knotty Knives logo on the hat.
That's my favorite logo. I had some really awesome friends come up with that logo. I texted them like, I need something designed, and they're like, let me think about it. Like the next day they sent that back, and I was like, this is phenomenal. Like this is the best logo I've seen in a while. So
everybody that I show loves it.
Yeah, it's simple but gets the point across. They did a great job.
Yeah. Mrs. Knife Wife is raving about it.
I love it.
She loves it. So do you have a website?
Yeah. So not yet. So I'm in the process of getting one done. It's just been, I've been super slow and been working on knives, so not on the website. But I think we'll hopefully get it probably January at the end of January at some point.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Okay. So they will be available there as well.
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk a little bit more about your history and how you kind of came into where you're at right now. So after Modern Warriors, you were also going to be a helicopter pilot.
Yeah. So I wanted to fly like big planes. So I wanted to be like a commercial airline pilot. But just with my wife, she's a saint. She's very patient with my career path. I mean, it's been phenomenal, but I just always wanted to be a pilot kind of growing up. I thought that would be like the coolest job. And the closer I got to it, and my wife, we want to have some kids one day. And we were like, well, it doesn't really work well being a pilot and being a dad.
Yeah.
And so we kind of took some steps back and reassessed where we were. And she's a nurse, and she's starting nurse practitioner school. Actually, she just started nurse practitioner school. So she's super busy and very successful in her own right. So I thought, well, maybe I'll take a chance on myself and go for it. And so cue Knotty Knives.
That's awesome. That's a great lead up.
Yeah.
Yeah. With your love of all things. And when we see new knife makers come onto the stage, it's kind of a natural progression with doing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Some of them turning out, like I said, and some of them not.
Yeah.
But, and then the next stage would be folders.
Yeah. Which definitely is a big step forward. I've reached out to a few companies to try to start the process of one. And I think we're getting I've narrowed it down to a few companies that I think would make great product. That I'm trying to keep it US based. Just I love the US base, but it's proving very difficult to do. So we'll see kind of how that goes. But there's a few in mind that I really would love to go with, and I think cool. I think we'll figure something out here. Probably Q4 this year, if not maybe Q1 of next year. You got plans? Yeah,
that's awesome.
Definitely.
So yeah, that would be great to see some tactical knives.
Oh, I would love to, even just some EDC folders. I think that would be way cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
but just with the outdoor and the culinary, you would do fine.
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely. I mean, the culinary, I posted a few pictures of that, and people were like, "Can I get this?" And I'm like, "Oh boy, like I better make some of these."
So what's your price range? Where are we starting at?
Yeah, so like all of my fixed hunting blades, they go anywhere from about $200 upwards. If you want like custom engravings, I'll do custom laser engravings, courtesy of Mr. Knife Guy. But yeah, so like my chef knives depends on what steel we want to do and other things like that. But like if we're doing high carbon steel, probably anywhere from about 150 onwards. And the stainless, we get into about reasonable. 250. Yeah.
For custom knives, that's very reasonable.
Totally.
All right. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. In fact, I want to talk about like kind of what got me obsessed with knives. So like, I guess let's bring it back to when I got married. So I have a best friend named Will. You've met Will before. He's come into the shop a few times, not too many times, but I was getting married and he was like, "Oh, I need to get him a gift, you know?" And bless his soul, he didn't go to you to buy it, but he got me a Benchmade bug out.
Nice.
For my first like high-end
That's
knife.
a nice gift.
Yeah, it was an S90V, the carbon fiber one. So it was a great knife. You've
really nice gift.
You've reprofiled the blade for me because I've used it so much. But he gave me that knife and I was like, holy cow, like this is something different than most knives. Like I just had, cheap pocket knives growing up. And so when I got my hands on that, I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then I found Mr. Knife Guy in town. And then I started going into Mr. Knife Guy with my dad and just became obsessed with knives. Like I think you said in a past podcast, it's like our accessories. Like it's just what it's exactly. Yeah. And so I became obsessed and I probably bought way too many knives. I don't want to admit the number because my wife will probably listen to this.
It's not possible.
But I bought tons of knives in the span of probably like 5 or 6 months, just trying to obsess over what blade shape I like the best and what handle material and everything. And so it's just kind of the coolest thing about it is there's a never ending supply of new things in the knife world. And that's kind of where I was like, I think there's a space for me to fit in here because everything's different. Like my blade shape and my handle design is very different than every other blade maker on the market, but it's such a simple tool. Like it's a knife at the end of the day, but it's a knife I made. And so it's just really cool in that regard to see kind of, I started with a bug out and then here we are. Now I'm making really cool knives. So it's really fun.
I love stories like that.
Yeah, totally.
And there's so many innovations you can do with like locking mechanisms.
Oh, it's crazy.
There's always new ones coming out.
Insane.
Improvements on old ones. And
no kidding.
Opening mechanisms and,
it's
going from washers to ball bearings. On
how smooth you can get them with like ceramics and everything. It gets crazy cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would be your ideal materials to work with? What would be, if you could, like, if you were a master bladesmith, you could make any knife, what would you do?
I really love stainless just because of the corrosion resistance. Like I love having a clean knife. And so I really like AEBL. AEBL is one of my favorite. I mean, it stays sharp for so long.
Premium still.
Yeah, it stays sharp for so long. It's easy to work with for me before hardening. But I mean, I think a really good fixed blade hunting knife, put it in AEBL, because most hunters are like me. They work a deer, skin a deer with it, and then they throw it in their bag and they forget it's in their bag for 3 months. And then they're like, oh crap, I got to clean this off. And then it's ruined by then if it's a high carbon
Take it to
knife.
Mr. Knife Guy for a deep
exactly.
clean.
Yep, exactly. And so like stainless in that regard is really nice for that. Like I guess AEBL or MagnaCut. MagnaCut is phenomenal. It's such a cool steel. So
I don't know if you've had a lot of experience working with like regular ingot stainless steels versus powdered stainless steels.
I've mostly done just powdered. Yeah.
So there's no reason to go backwards.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. Like and hopefully there's rumor about MagnaCut getting a little sparse due to plant closures, which would be terrible. Yeah. But yeah, I've stuck with the high end stuff. And in fact, I buy all my stuff from Alpha Knife Supply up in Cedar City, and they're phenomenal to work with. Guys. I mean, amazing to work with. And so they've had a good supply. So hopefully they can keep it coming.
That you bring up a really good point because we're in an interesting place in our economy
Very.
With Chinese tariffs being a possibility,
definitely.
and how that will affect the industry, as well as one of the largest crucibles, one of the largest blade steel manufacturers in the United States, if not the world.
Yeah, which is scary.
Maybe going bankrupt.
Yeah, I think they actually filed. So we'll see what happens. But
it's kind of interesting. I was talking to Paul Boss, actually.
Killer. Amazing.
He's been in the store, and I said, yeah, I heard a rumor that Crucible may be going bankrupt. And it's like, they've been saying that for years.
Yep.
And I guess they did sell a part off earlier, and they work closely with Niagara. And there's a lot of information. I subscribe to I'm pulling a blank, but Blades. I can't remember the name of this podcast. But,
that's all right.
Yeah, and they go into depth about the stainless steel history and what the possibilities are.
That's cool.
Knife Steel Nerds. How could I forget Knife Steel Nerds?
He is phenomenal.
Dr. Laren Thomas.
Yeah,
brain fart. But I'm a patron of Knife Steel Nerds, and
Killer.
The information that comes out of there, I think. Anybody that's involved with the knife industry or interested in metallurgy at all should subscribe.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's where I started with my heat treating knowledge, because I was like, I have no idea. What do I just throw it red hot, chuck it in some oil, call it a day? No, It's not that easy. So that's where I started learning about heat treating for sure.
Awesome. Did you ever watch Forged in Fire?
Yeah. So as a little kid, I did. Well, I guess not little kid, but in my high school
years.
You
are a little kid.
Yeah, I am a little kid, exactly. But in my high school years, I loved Forged in Fire. It was like so cool. In fact, I remember watching one episode with Nate the Blade Maker. He's a knife, cool, amazing knife maker up out of northern Salt Lake. But I remember watching his episode, and it stand out to me. He's like, this good dude made this crazy cool pattern out of his garage. Like, that's a total possibility. Like, I could do that. And sure enough, here I am.
Yeah.
out of a garage. Great. Yeah.
It's certainly inspired many, many knife
I can
makers.
imagine. I mean, I would love to ask like all of the people that have started knife companies, like, did you start from Forged in Fire? Like, how many would say yes? Like, I bet it'd be a pretty high number.
It's funny. I had Devin Thomas was in my store, and I turned to him and I said, Devin, I have to ask you, do you watch Forged in Fire? Because a lot of the stuff that they're doing, he pioneered.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, man, that's an hour I yell at the television. You're doing it wrong.
I can only imagine, dude. I can only imagine.
But I mean, there's so many different aspects of knife making. Yeah. There's different, types of knives, different types of steels, different ways to create. We talked about stock removal.
Yeah.
There's forging process itself.
Which is phenomenal.
And there's different types of forges, and it's just infinite. And so you've got people from all over with different experiences, but they specialize in one thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then throw them together.
One simple tool, make it a knife.
And,
Yeah.
So.
It's crazy how they can do it in such short of a time too. Because when I'm making my knives, I take my sweet time as slow as I can. I couldn't imagine being like, you have 1 hour. I'd be like, I don't know. Where's my drill? I don't know what to do.
You'll get your experience, then you'll be winning.
Right.
Fire,
eventually.
right?
Hopefully. That's the goal, right?
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about your history. Are you from St. George?
Yeah. So born and raised, I mean, it's all I've ever known. So we grew up, my parents and I grew up over in Shadow Mountain. So pretty close to where the shop is, actually, just down the street. And then kind of halfway through my life, we moved over to the other side of town, and we've been there ever since. So it's a place I call home. I like to call it home. I don't want to call anywhere else home. Right. So it's a good place for sure. Yeah.
I'm a native Utah, and I grew up in Salt Lake, and couldn't handle the cold.
It's cold. Yeah.
So I left Utah and swore I'd never come back.
Yeah.
I went to
you don't
Phoenix.
like snow, huh?
No. 4-lettered word.
Yep.
But so when we left Arizona, I agreed that St. George was as far north as I was willing to park it.
It's a good median.
Very happy here.
Yeah, it's cold enough in the winter. Well, not this winter. It's been phenomenal this winter. I mean, 60 degrees. It's pretty nice. So yeah, it's a great place to call home for sure. The people are great, mostly nice.
And there's quite a few knife makers. There's a hidden knife community.
Very hidden. Yeah, there's a lot of knowledgeable people for sure.
Yep. So anything else you want to talk about?
Just how awesome Mr. Knife Guy is. I mean, like, seriously, like I go in with questions. Yeah, I go in with questions anytime, and he's more than happy to help with any questions I have about, be it from material to what I should do next. I mean, it's like, in fact, the last time I went into Mr. Knife Guy, I had this knife, to be exact, and I have stainless pins on all of my handles, and they were like, you should try G10 pins. All right. So I ordered G10 pins, and my next knives are all going to have G10 pins that match the handles. So it's a cool progression, and I appreciate all the help that you've offered to me and given me all these giant leaps and bounds of knowledge that I would have taken probably decades to get.
Thank you.
That you just are happy to share with me. So
it's a great community.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Let's talk about carry options. This is a Kydex sheath that you made.
Yep.
And you did it really, really well with the thumb push off.
Yes, that's my favorite design. Simple.
Easy to carry. It's got great retention because it clicks right into, any grooves on the knife itself.
Yes.
And then you've left it open for carry options.
Yes, mostly carry options. So I usually space it out about 1/2 an inch. So most of your standard carry clips are, be it from like 3/4 to a 1/2 inch spacing on where their hardware can mount with. And so I based it off of what is that clip?
Ulti clip?
Yeah, the Ulti clip. It's like the Slim 3.3, I think is what it was. I based all of my spacing off of those. And so you could go from the top, these two, or just the top 2 holes in the Kydex. And I've just set it up to where it is super comfortable to carry either way. You can carry it blade facing forward or blade backwards, and just however you prefer to carry it.
That's great. This is perfect because a lot of times when you buy a knife, they're telling you how you should carry it.
Yeah.
And you might not want to carry it that way.
Totally.
Or you might be left-handed, or you might want more concealability, or you might want a scout carry or whatever. So by you incorporating this design in the carry sheath, you can wear it as a neck knife.
Definitely.
Just hang it from paracord.
The retention's super solid, so you definitely
It's not going to fall out. Again, you have to push off with your thumb to get that sheath off. You can affix a T-clip or a C-clip.
100%. Yeah.
You could put Ulti clips on here, so you can carry it, like I said, this way or this way or this way or however you want.
In fact, I have a knife that I sent over to a buddy in Ukraine, and he's fighting, and he put one of my knives that I custom made for him on his duty belt back behind his IFAK.
Oh, sweet.
And so it sits just blade up like this on his IFAK, and I made the sheet super tight because he was like, can you make it a little bit tighter than normal? I was like, of course. So I was like, it won't fall out. I'm like, yep. So it sits just like that, and he's got a little thumb stud, and he grabs it just like that, pulls it out, and it's killer cool. I didn't even think you could mount it that way, but here we are. He figured out a way to do it. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So it's way cool.
So that's one thing I was really, really excited when you started bringing your knives in and asking questions and stuff. I'm like, Stockton, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
I see this progression, and you just kind of jumped in the middle.
Yeah.
And you've got a real natural talent.
I appreciate that.
I think
Thank
you'll go really, really far. I look forward to seeing you at Blade shows.
Yeah. I definitely want to get out to Blade Show West this year. I think I'll try to get my own table and just see how many cool things I can make in time for it.
Yeah, make more knives than you think you need to.
Yeah, right. No kidding. That would be the goal.
It's a good show. I've come to love Blade Show West, and let's see. I think that's about all that I had for you.
Right on.
But I definitely
it.
wanted to feature you. I wanted
I
to
appreciate
get your name out there and show
Thank
people.
You so much.
What Stockton Jones of Knotty Knives is capable of, and
definitely
to be
getting
watching for him.
Yeah, and I just got a nice new broadbent grinder, so I'm gonna get my quality will definitely skyrocket. For sure.
That's the other progression too, is the money sink of tools.
Oh man, it is an endless sink of tools for sure. Like I started with just a simple 2x48 benchtop grinder. I got it off Amazon.
Right.
And it worked great. I mean, but you guys know, like there were small things that I couldn't do with it that I wanted to be able to do, but I just couldn't because it wasn't quite up to par. So now with this new grinder, my quality will definitely skyrocket, and I am beyond excited for it. I just finally got it all set up and got my plat and everything put together, and it's awesome.
That is so exciting.
Yeah, it's killer.
I love it, and hopefully, it pays for itself.
Oh yeah. In fact, I've let it pay for itself. Yeah, that's
great.
Definitely.
That's the missus condition.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Well, we're really, really excited. Again, the plans are to start bringing in some of your kitchen cutlery into Mr. Knife Guy. We're going to do an exclusive and get those out there. They'll be on the Mr. Knife Guy website and on our social media.
Right on.
And then also the Knotty Knives website.
Yes, definitely.
Will be coming up
very soon.
Very soon. And we'll be pointing to that as well. All right. Well, Stockton Jones, thank you so much for being part of the Mr. Knife Guy podcast.
Yeah, I'm honored to be here. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Until next time.